Hi everybody, Rachel here from Treehouse Knits. Welcome to episode 30 of the Treehouse Knits podcast. I can't believe we made it to 30. I didn't think I'd make it past 5, let alone 30. So I'm thrilled to still be here. I still have the energy and enthusiasm and excitement for knitting that I had back in episode 1, so I'm going to just keep going here. Welcome to the podcast. I have a few administrative details about some knit-alongs that are happening, and then we'll jump right into the works in progress. I'll talk a little bit about some finished objects that I have in terms of sewing, and then I've got a bunch of other little things to share with you. So why don't we go ahead and get started? You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Treehouse Knits, and on Ravelry I have a podcast page under the Treehouse Knits podcast. There you're going to find a couple of threads that talk about or that include the knit-alongs that I'm doing right now. The first item of business is to talk about the Year of the Mitten knit-along that I'm doing all year long. Every quarter I'm drawing a name from the Chatter and FO thread. It's all one thread, and I'm just going to pull. I pulled already once from numbers 1 through 136, and now I'm pulling from number 136 onward. I think it's up to 230, something like that. And I went ahead and did a random number generator and got number 137, who is Karen Ravelry 2 from Ottawa, Canada. And Karen, you have won this cool little pack of Phenol Garn, Rauma, and I want to get that to you. So if you could just let me know when you see this podcast and that you've won, Karen, give me a shout with your address, your mailing address, and I'll get this out into the mail for you. Karen, just shoot me an email at treehouseknits@gmail.com or an instant message here on Instagram, and I'll get this out to you if you just give me your address. So thanks for participating. And the next prize draw for that thread, I think, will be in September, which is hard to believe. Let's not wish our summer away. Speaking of summer, I am hosting with the lovely Denise of Earth Tones Girl podcast the Summer Mitten Knit-Along. You will find a thread on my Ravelry podcast page, Summer Mitten KAL, and on there I have a chatter thread and I have an FO thread. And I know Denise has the same as well on her Ravelry podcast page. I wanted to share with you some of the prizes for this knit-along, and the knit-along is going really well. We've had lots of chatter in the chatter threads on mine and on Denise's podcast page. Cross-reference, do what you need to do. You can post the same things on both of our podcast pages so that you can be in the running for her drawings and for my drawings. So if you think about it, there's 6 ways, because she's pulling, I think, 3 times and I'm pulling 3 times over the next 2 months. So you have 6 opportunities to win something in this knit-along. I am having so much fun seeing your progress. I'm thrilled that people are as excited as I am about knitting up some mittens that are infusing the summer warmth so that when winter comes, we put on those mittens and they just brighten our day, warm our hearts and our bodies. So without further ado, let me share with you. I will be pulling during the next podcast for the chattering that's going on in June. I will then, in the end of July, pull from the chatter thread for the month of July. And then I do have a grand prize drawing that I will be drawing from the finished objects thread, which is a pretty incredible prize. So let me share with you what I already have. The lovely Tiffany from the Woolen Homestead got in touch with me when she heard we were doing this Summer Mitten KAL, because she has knit up the Songbird mittens by Erica Hooser. I think that's the designer. That is a mitten that is in my queue, on my list to knit up. It's that beautiful pattern with the birds, the songbirds, and I'll put a picture in here of that. Well, the wonderful Tiffany wanted to take part in a donation for the prize pool. So she actually has a kit on her website at the Woolen Homestead that includes enough yarn to knit the songbird pattern, and here's the yarn that she's included, and I'm so happy that the tonal quality of that pinkish mauve is showing up. These will make, this is all you need for one pair of mittens. Isn't that a cool logo? I love their logo. And then she also has included a 20% off discount code for the songbird mittens. So she must have gotten together with Erica Husser, and Erica has said that she would take let you take 20% off. So you can actually buy this kit in Tiffany's shop. So I will leave in the show notes link to her shop as well. But this is going to be one of the prizes, probably the first pull in the end of June. So get your chattering going in the thread for an opportunity to win the yarn and the pattern. And thank you so much, Tiffany, for your donation. I don't know if, I have a feeling that those of you who watch me already know about Tiffany. I found Tiffany a couple years ago when she was knitting from the mitten. I live in Michigan. I live just outside of Grand Rapids, and I kind of did a search for if there were any podcasters in Michigan, and she came up, and I immediately enjoyed her podcast. And she was doing some really challenging projects, and she was spinning, and then she got into dyeing, and now she and her husband do the podcast. Her husband, I'm so sorry, I cannot remember his name, but the two of them have such a nice on-screen dynamic, and they just remind me of people that I grew up, I actually grew up in a town about maybe a half an hour south of them, and they totally remind me of my family and the friends that went to school with me. And they're just a really interesting couple. I love, they're definitely a Michigan couple doing the outdoor activities, and I just enjoy following them, and I think you'll really like their podcast. They're, like I said, they have a great chemistry between the two of them, and now her husband is actually doing a lot of the dyeing in the shop as well. So they're just I think they're a very unique, interesting couple. She mentioned they met playing bagpipes. Am I right, Tiffany? Let me know if I'm right. Which I'm always amazed by all the other creative activities that knitters do. Knitters are really interesting people, and they're definitely multi-layered people. So check them out, get to know them a little bit too. I know you will not be disappointed in their podcast. It's a really fun one, and I do learn something every time. So thank you, Tiffany. The grand prize, I thought I'd share with you that right now. I will be pulling that the end of July, and here's the grand prize. I have a few things. The first is a project bag that I've knit up with these lovely little swimming ladies. I thought it would be the perfect, well, it is the perfect size for a mitten project or even a sock project. This is my standard sock size that I like to knit up. It's these lovely bathing beauties with footprints in the sand as the lining on the inside, and the tab with my little Treehouse Knits logo tab, which I'm actually working on fine-tuning that a little bit, and I'm excited about that, and we'll hopefully share that with you in the next couple of months too. But so you get this bag. I'm going to throw in a set of Phenol Garn Rauma in this blue and white color, a standard traditional color that you'll see in a lot of Norwegian color knit mittens. And then I think the Piece de la Resistance, I'm sure I'm just slaughtering that, but you know what I mean, are these amazing stitch markers by Ann Tudor. Ice cream cones. When I saw them, I right away wrote Ann, and I said, would you consider, I just love these ice cream cones, would you consider sending me some for the KAL? And she jumped right in, so thank you so much, Ann Tudor, for these. So this is the grand prize. I'm so excited to share that with you. I've been working a little bit more on the lining of that bag. And thank you for those of you who gave me ideas about how to finish off the lining of the bag. Here it is. The bag itself is the striped area, and then I decided to just go ahead and knit a liner in a similar way that you would knit a liner for mittens. So I just went ahead and picked up around the top of the bag and just knit about the length that I needed, and I plan on putting this inside if I can do it here on camera, I plan on kind of flipping it inside, right side out, I guess I should say. Easier said than done. And so the lining will be in here like this. Now I wanted to make the base of the bag a little more sturdy. I like how linen stretches, but I wanted something sturdy. And thank you so much for all the ways that people mentioned. I heard from Carrie from Creative Obsession, who said, why don't you use those foam sheets, you know, the foam sheets that I actually used when I made one of those traveler's notebooks. I happen to have some left, and I think it will be just the right material where I can punch holes in it around the perimeter and then crochet from the bottom base of my knit-in sleeve to create kind of the bottom of the bag and attach it. So that is my plan. Now for handles, I have a bunch of belts that my boys have worn out, but I like kind of the worn look for handles. So I found this particular belt. It's a black on one side, brown on the other, so I would use the brown side, and I'm not quite sure how I would attach it, if I would cut it in half and make two handles, or if I'd make one handle like, you know, kind of like this. I don't know. I'm just kind of doing step-by-step decisions on this one and having a lot of fun with the bag. The yarn that I'm using is actually from Espace Tricot. It's their linen line. It's not the, I think they had like a lace weight. This is the heavier weight. I think it's a DK weight. So anyways, that's going really well. I'm using, the lining yarn that I'm using is a Bernat yarn that I actually think is a really nice yarn. I'd especially consider using it for baby stuff. It is the Bernat Softy Baby Cotton. I wanted something that would be durable and lightweight, and I didn't want wool in the middle of my bag, and washable. So it's a cotton acrylic. It's really soft, has a nice hand, and you can get this at those big box stores with coupons. So it really, they show a blanket in the picture, and it would make a really, it is nice, I have to agree. It's a little heavy though, heavier than I thought it would be in weight. Things to think about. Okay, so that is one. And then the other, it's a half finished object. My mittens that I'm knitting for the summer mitten knit along. I am making Anne's Flowers. That's the pattern. And I am using Rauma Toomey, which is a sport DK-ish weight yarn. It's 50% alpaca, 50% wool, and I love this yarn. Here is the one finished mitten. Can't get it in the screen. There we go. And there's the back. It's got a little heart right here. It goes up into circles. I had so much fun using 3 colors, and you know, when you're knitting a 2-color mitten, you end up having some yarn left, so all of a sudden I'm starting to think of ways to include many different colors in a mitten. And the mitten book, the Ventivator book and PDF on Ravelry, they show a lot of their mittens with all kinds of different colors in it, so I'm kind of having fun doing that. The yarn, I love the weight. It gives me a mitten that I like a bigger mitten here in Michigan, one that kind of captures warm air instead of a really tight mitten. So the DK weight does the job. The row gauge makes it long enough for my larger hands, and this yarn, the alpaca, makes it really soft. I don't necessarily like alpaca around my neck, but on my hands, all I feel is the softness of it. It gives it a little bit more of a sheen than the 100% wool Rauma, and it also gives it a little bit of a halo, which I think you can see there as well. So I think it, in terms of the way it looks, it does a great job with color work, but I like this one a little bit better than the Phenol Garn, if you can believe it, for me. Now I know for a lot of you the Phenol Garn will be a perfect choice, but for me here in Michigan, and for these patterns, fingering weight yarn is not making a mitten that the size that I like, if that makes sense. So thank you to my friend Ciao Lunabella, Shelley, who was with me when we picked out this yarn, she pointed me in the direction of this yarn, and she helped me with the color, which I think is really cool. And I got this yarn at Heritage Spinning and Weaving in Lake Orion, Michigan, and I know a few of you have reached out to that store and purchased yarn there, and she ships there. Her name is Joan, I believe. And please, if you are in search of any great Norwegian yarn and you don't have a local yarn store near you, contact them at Heritage Spinning and Weaving, and she will help you put colors together, whatnot, and let her know that I sent you there too, please. It's a great shop, and I'll put a link to the shop in the show notes for sure. So I think pretty good. I mean, we're like 20 some days into the knit along, and I've got this mitten done. Of course, the mitten that I thought I was going to knit for the KAL, I could not stop knit. I started it like a week before the KAL started in May, and I could not put it down. And part of me thought, oh, I should hold back. And then I thought, no, with knitting, just go with what you're excited to do. And so I just kept going, and I finished it before, which leads me to, I don't think I've talked to you since Denise and I tried to do that Instagram story, the live story. That was a debacle, but it ended up working out just fine. Cooler heads prevailed, and I ended up doing my own story, and then Denise followed up with her story. So thanks for hanging in there while we were kind of going in and out of Instagram. That was pretty funny. So I hope, Denise, you and I can maybe try that again in the future. I think that would be really fun. Which makes me also think I ended up getting some one VIP ticket for the Legacy Fiber Arts Needles Up. That is I'm sure you all know, it's in conjunction with Rhinebeck. It's like the night before Rhinebeck starts, something like that. And I'm planning on going out to Rhinebeck this year. So I just went ahead and got the ticket, and I'm just telling the universe I'm going to do this year. So that was one way to do that. Just go ahead and bite the bullet and get that ticket. I'm so excited. Okay, so we've talked about my bag progress and Annie's flowers. I wanted to point out, last time I had mentioned how excited I was about getting the first installment of the latest Shawl Society. It is a beautiful pattern that came out. It's a half pie shawl. And when the pattern came out and I looked at it and I had my yarn picked out, I just wasn't feeling in the mood to do another half pie shawl. Not that the shawl is exactly like it, but it felt similar to the snow melt shawl that I did last year, and I just was really feeling the passion to do some sewing. So I decided to just wait and see what the next Shawl Society one is, and if that one strikes my fancy, I will jump at the chance of knitting that. But I was feeling the passion to do some sewing, so I wanted to share with you briefly what I've been working on. I decided that I wanted to try some different materials in sewing, and it being summer now, I find myself by the pool or at the lake or just outside, and I want a more durable kind of project bag. So I found this material. It's an iron-on, if you can see the sheen, it's an iron-on vinyl that makes any fabric water resistant. And so I went ahead, and you've probably seen, I've used this, I love this sailboat and lighthouse material so much, and I've used it in some of my other bags. And there's the stones. So I went ahead and ironed that on and made myself, I had just enough to make this kind of size bag of the lighthouse and of the rock material. And I like it. My only wish was that it was a little bit more of a matte finish, and I know there is a matte iron-on vinyl, so I will have to get some of that, but I think it turned out really nice. It was a lot of fun to try that out, and it worked really well. It kind of makes a wrinkled appearance, which, because I wanted it matte and I didn't want it wrinkled, excuse me while I bend down here, last summer in Chicago, I picked up a remnant of this, it's called a laminated organic cotton, and it was in this kind of tree pattern. And I don't know if you can see, it is matte finish, but it is water resistant. It's almost like an oilcloth, but it's not sticky, if that makes sense. It's softer. And I lined it with some quilting batting, and it's just a really soft, wonderful feel. You know, feel is really important to me, and I think all of you as knitters out there and creators, makers of things, I have a feeling that you're like me and that, you know, when you're working on your project and you're picking up your project bag, it's about the experience too. I'm sure I'm sounding cuckoo to some of you, but for me, I just really, this makes me happy, this material, and it's waterproof. I ended up lining it with this mushroom fabric, and couldn't be happier with these bags. This is my sock size, maybe a little bit bigger. Again, it was remnant, so I kind of had to go askew from my normal dimensions of bags. So going back to that fabric with the sailboats and the lighthouses, I had not made a drawstring bag in a very long time, where I kind of forgot how to even do it. And so I just went ahead, and I think I found a tutorial on YouTube. Maybe? I don't even remember now. But I just went ahead and made some drawstring bags. I made 2 of them. The difference between the 2 is I kept one without any interfacing, and the other has interfacing. This is the one without. I lined it in this kind of cool diamond yellow pattern. And I like that it's not lined, because you can just fill it up with your project and put it in a bag, and it doesn't add any bulk. I love this cording with the lighthouses and the boats, because it just reminds me of the rope on a boat. And this one is the bag that I did put the lining in, and I lined this one with that diamond pattern as well. And you'll see with the batting, it's a little more sturdy and squishy, which I think there's room for both in this world. Then I had a little extra fabric and made one of these see-through pouches, which I have been loving using. And I know I've showed you, well, before I move on, I made this pouch. I followed a pattern by Annie. If you just Google by Annie, you'll see all her patterns, and this is one of her patterns. And then I had some other fabric left and made some small little pouches to go in the project bags. But I used a pattern to make this one. Now I think I've shown you this bag before. I finally got around to binding it. I don't know if I shared it with you on the last podcast, but I love the bag. I had some extra fabric, so I thought I would just go ahead and make another one of these pouches. I was feeling a little cocky by this point, thinking, oh, I don't need the pattern for this. I can just kind of cut out the pieces that I have, and you'll see how wonky it looks. I would never give this away as a gift or even try and sell it. Heck no, no way. But for me, it works great. And I love these see-through pouches for notions, because you don't really need to kind of dig through. You see, you know where to pull your item out. So obviously I've had a lot of fun sewing bags lately. This particular bag calls for a zipper inside the bag, and it's got separating pockets, you'll see in here. I decided it has you putting the zipper in after, when you're to this point, then you put the zipper in it, and I feel like the zipper, if I sew it in, you'd see the back side of the stitches here, and I didn't like that, so I thought I would do 3 snaps. So I have on order from my local quilting store a snap setter and some snaps, and I'll just snap, and that way I can actually pull yarn in between the closed snaps, and it'll be a fun little project bag. There's lots of little mistakes. I forgot to line this pocket, so it's a little, line it with interfacing, so it's a little flimsy. I think it's a little, I don't know, in this picture it looks like it's centered, but sometimes it doesn't look centered. And this was the first time that maybe not the first time, but I made one of these kind of built-in zippers, and you can kind of see the pattern. You're not supposed to see that, but of the lining, but it works for me. So that's a little bit of my sewing. I've went a little bit bag crazy, I guess you could say. Yeah. I wanted to share with you a little bit of a trip that I made just, if you can believe, 25 miles south of me. Plucky Knitter has created their own office space and event space in a little town called Hastings, Michigan. They have just finished the space and they hosted a Plucky pop-up for a couple days at the new location. It's not a yarn store. It felt like a yarn store for the pop-up, but it's an event space and an office space for them, and it was so amazing. I went down to Hastings with my friend Becky, who's a knitter friend of mine, and we walk in the door and it's full of knitters and plucky yarn everywhere. The aesthetic of the space, it was kind of like a small town old building with exposed brick and hardwood floors, and it was a huge space. It kind of went on and on. First was the yarn area and the desk, and then in the center there was an area where they had out all kinds of breakfasty foods and drinks and champagne. And then in the back room, it was all set up with kind of vintagey chairs and couches and just cool design where you could just sit and knit. It was so much fun, and honestly, they really pampered us knitters at this event. Plucky for me has been more of a challenging yarn to get. The Plucky that I have gotten in the past was from the Plucky Shindig that's in Grand Rapids, Michigan occasionally. That was the first time I'd ever been introduced to that yarn, and I purchased a few skeins of yarn and created a vest that I love, and the yarn is absolutely beautiful and the dyeing is gorgeous. So when I walked into this shop and saw all this Plucky yarn just right at my fingertips, I kind of went a little crazy for sweater quantities of yarn. So I wanted to share with you a couple of sweaters that I bought yarn for. And they happen to be in this issue 4 Lane magazine that I absolutely love. This issue is incredible and I can't wait to start these, maybe late summer, early fall. The first one is Lakeland, and when I saw this sweater, I loved the front. I thought it was gorgeous. Then I turned the page and saw the back and just knew that just looks like a classic sweater I would wear forever and ever. So the yarn that they chose to create Lakeland is Hinterland Range, which is an Aran weight Canadian blend of alpaca and rambouillet, which to me says a very soft yarn with a beautiful halo and drape from the alpaca. And I'd planned on getting that particular yarn from Hinterland, but when I went to Plucky and I saw their yarn, excuse me for my bending over here, they had, you know, you go to Plucky, you think of Plucky, you think of color, and what does Rachel get? Kind of an uncolored skein or a sweater's quantity. But this is their line called Yakpaca, which is 50% yak, 50% alpaca. And I thought that this would be a really great replacement for that Hinterland range. I think the alpaca again gives it a little bit of a toothiness and rusticness, and will definitely give me drape. And the yak, oh my gosh, it's just so soft, and I cannot wait to make this sweater. So that is in the bobbin color, that's Yakpaca. And I will be making the Lakeland sweater. Okay, so the other yarn that I got, when I saw this particular, I don't know if I guess it's a fade of sorts. Actually, my friend Becky picked it up first, and I thought, my gosh, that's gorgeous. And then she ended up not taking it, so I went back and I was like, yeah, I really love this. I just cannot wait to knit this sweater's quantity into something. I don't know what. It is called Pinking of You number 5, and it's their Primo fingering, which is a 70-25, which is 70 superwash merino, 20% cashmere, 5% nylon. And what I love about this is each one is so tonal in quality. There's so many colors in each one. Even the light one has such an amazing tonal quality about it. So that I have to decide what it's going to become. And then I thought I got out of there with everything, and I saw that, of course, I had not even checked first the $10 bin. I think it was $10. Yes, it was $10 a skein bin. And in there, I found a sweater's quantity of this snug fingering called One Hit Wonder. It's a one hit wonder, and it's in the merino cashmere alpaca, not nylon. Oh, that is even better. So this is 70% merino, 20% cashmere, 10% alpaca. Plucky has amazing bases. I would love to know where they're getting their bases from, not because I want to buy the bases and dye my own stuff. I'm just so interested how they source their yarn, where it comes from, and how they're coming up with these cool blends. And again, it's got a tonal quality to it, gray. I think it's coming up pretty close to what it really looks like. It's a cool gray. I was thinking, here in this particular skein, you can see the better tonal quality of it. I thought this would be amazing with a couple of bright pops of some color in a yoke sweater. So I spent on this one $50 for a sweater's worth of Plucky, which I'm so excited about. So that was the Plucky event. So much fun. Again, thank you. I'm sure Plucky Knitter people are not watching this podcast, but honestly, to know it's only 25 minutes south of me, I cannot wait for their next event. I want to definitely go. The final thing about the Plucky, and honestly the most important part of Plucky meetup, the Plucky pop-up, was meeting a couple of viewers, and now one of them is a podcaster herself, that I've interacted with on Instagram, both of them on Instagram, and they've just been nice supporters of my podcast. And that is Terry, who's Welcome Home HP on Instagram, and Trisha, who is Tie-Dye Diva on Instagram and on YouTube. She's got her podcast is, I think it's called The Best Day Ever podcast. It was so great meeting them. Both of them looked exactly like I had pictured they would look. Of course, I knew what Tie-Dye Diva looked like, but because of her podcast. But Terry as well. The only thing, Terry, I had pictured you much shorter, and you were just tall and statuesque. So anyway, it was great to meet both of you, and hopefully we'll see you at another Plucky pop-up. So speaking about the Lane magazine, there's another pattern in here that I want to make, and I have yarn for it from Wool and Honey up in Cedar, Michigan. Did they have a sale going on a couple weeks ago, and they had a kit made for the Airy sweater, which it's hard to see, it's dark, but do you see it's a pullover with some really pretty cables and lace work down the front. There's a close-up of it. I thought this was just a gorgeous, gorgeous pattern. So the yarn that their kit had is called Andorra by Kelborn Woolens. It's 60% wool, 60% merino, 20% Highland, 20% mohair. So I thought I would try a little mohair in a sweater. We'll see how it goes. This is in the color blueberry. I like blue on me, so I'm looking forward to doing a sweater with some cables down the front. That's all I really have to say about that one. Okay, so moving on, I got the latest knit crate for June. Oh my gosh, I don't know how they're doing it, but they have such an amazing value. Amazing value. And I wanted to point out something. So I opened up the knit crate box that came to me, and I pulled out my yarn. I thought I'm just gonna check, make sure I got everything. What are you doing looking at my bottom? All the good stuffs is up there. I thought that was, how fun. I thought that was very cute. So I got this colorway. I shared it on an Instagram story. I love this colorway, and I think it goes nicely with my coloring as well. The pattern that came with it, oh my gosh, love the pattern as well. This is their ice cream. I think they still have some available for June. You can go to Knit Crate, and if you're interested, you get two skeins for $24, I believe. This is the Chewies colorway. This is superwash merino nylon 10% cashmere. It's an awesome, awesome blend. And the pattern that comes with it that you download, there's a couple of options. There's a crochet pattern, which looks like this, which is, I don't know, I'd have to kind of play around with it. I'm not usually a huge fan of crochet for garments, but that looks like it's drapey and nice. But I love this pattern here. I'm excited. I think I may end up knitting this. Of course, they use the same color that I have here, but so excited about this yarn. And then I got the sock crate as well. Thank you, Knit Crate, for sending me the sock yarn, the sock, I think they just call it sock crate. This is, I believe, 19. And when I give you these prices, that includes the shipping, and they have international shipping as well too. But this is the colorway. I thought, yeah, that's a beautiful dye job, gorgeous colorway. But then I saw a picture online, and I'm going to try and insert it here. It looks like rippled water in a pool. That just, oh, that turns into something that looks like that. This might be my toe up 2 at a time sock cast on for 4th of July weekend. So if you're interested in any of those yarns, Knit Crate sends them to me so that I can share them with you if I think that they're great, which I only share with you items that I think you would enjoy learning about. I do have a link in my Instagram. You can link right to Knit Crate, and I'll put it down below in the down bar too, and you get 20% off your first order if you use Treehouse Knits, or maybe it's Treehouse 20. I'll put it down below here. And anything that I make for, I think I get a certain like percentage of what you might purchase. It goes into the podcast for shipping, for prizes and stuff. So thanks for considering that. And honestly, it's a great value and beautiful yarn. Beautiful, beautiful yarn. It's a little bit of wool piggery here. I've been saying that the last couple of times. I don't usually show a lot of stuff that I've gotten, but it just so happened that I did have quite a bit of stuff. I got the latest Wool and Honey. My husband, Wool and Honey, I should say my entire sentence. I got the latest Wool and Honey Sleeping Bear monthly club in the mail. My husband gave that gift to me for my birthday last year, and oh my gosh, it's incredible. This is Shirsty Cat Designs by Kelly Straub, BFL sock. I love BFL sock. It's 75-25, 75 superwash BFL, 25% nylon, and the colorway is the Homestead, which is a gorgeous resort in northern Michigan, on Lake Michigan, near Sleeping Bear Dunes, and they captured the colors perfectly. It's wooded and grassy green, and then there's the dunes and the blue Caribbean-esque waters of Lake Michigan. Do I have you wanting to go there yet? Gorgeous. I almost want to combine this with, I have one skein of Petoskey Stone colorway, which I think would be really cool to combine with this and something very Michigan. And maybe it's inspiring me to design something. But man, they hit it right on the nail with this color. So excited. And the pattern that I chose, you get a choice of one of 3 patterns. I thought that was a cute baby pattern. Maybe someday I'll have a grandchild. Who knows? There's a podcast I wanted to tell you about. I got it as a recommendation on YouTube one day, and it sounded interesting, so I clicked on it and found out she's got, like, I think over 15,000 subscribers. So it's maybe somebody you've already heard about, but I had never heard of. And I guess if I hadn't heard of her, maybe some of you haven't, and this would be helpful to you. The podcast is Roxanne. Her name is Roxanne Richardson. I think that's the name of her podcast. But it's a channel, and she has not only she does like a Friday kind of regular style podcast, but she also does Technique Tuesdays, and she's got a lot of great tutorials around socks, around color work. What drew me in was her particular color work episode, and that's what I watched, and that's probably why it came recommended. It's called Multicolor Knitting, and I will link that episode. That'd be a good one for you to kind of dip your toes into the pool of Roxanne Richardson. She is Minnesotan. She is a teacher, and we have a lot that we can learn from her. She has been knitting for a long, long time, and she is a knitter with a capital K and a great teacher. I can tell she'd be a really good teacher. She's very intellectual and digs deep, and I love that too. When I want to learn how to do something, I love to do the research on it and learn the history, and she's that kind of person too, and so I really like her. If you watch my show, I think you'll like her 100 times better than me. But check her out. I'll have a link to her podcast in the show notes as well. I think, oh, one last thing. Books. So last time I talked to you about The Immortalists, and I'm going to be honest with you, I started reading the book. I was so excited about it. I just could not get into it. Just could not. I wasn't feeling anything for any of the characters, and maybe it was just the timing for me and reading the book, and maybe I'll give it a try some other time. But I just want to let you know that maybe some of you had started reading it. I'm curious what your thoughts were, but I put it down. Summer, to me, if I'm not enjoying something I'm doing in free time, then I drop it and find there's definitely other things that I could do that I'd really love. But what I'm reading now, I'm about to start reading, and I have a feeling it's going to be a good one. And it's from my book club. Our local library does a book club in a bag program. There's 6 of us friends that get together every 6 weeks, and we just get a bag that's got the right number of books for us and a question guide, and we follow that and just have a good time. Anyways, our book is Hidden Figures, which is the book that the movie was based on. I don't like it when they remake the cover of a book after the movie's out with the movie stars on it, because really the book is usually better than the movie. I don't know. I don't like that. What do you guys think? Let me know down below. Maybe it must make people buy more books when they see the stars of a movie on it. But to me, it makes it look like it came after the movie. I don't know. Anyways, I'm excited. I loved the movie, and this book I hope gets even deeper into that whole time period. So I'll let you know next time, hopefully, how that's going. It's summertime. I hope you guys are enjoying your summer knitting. You still have plenty of time to join in the summer mitten KAL or in the year of the mitten. Make sure that you put your entries into the podcast Ravelry page threads so that I potentially can draw your name for some of those great prizes. The next episode I will be drawing from the summer mitten KAL thread, and we'll see which one of you gets that awesome prize of the yarn. Yeah, that's it. I love hanging out with you guys. Let me know down below what you're working on, what books you're reading. I just love to interact with you down below in the discussion area. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. It helps other people find the video. And I'll see you on episode 31 on the next Treehouse Knits. Bye.